Hello and welcome to the SBH Teaching Kitchen's online cooking series. My name is Emily, and in today's video we will be making our coconut cauliflower curry. Now, I love this dish. It is warm, it's comforting, it's full of just really flavorful spices. It's something that comes together really quickly, and this is something that you can make with a lot of ingredients that you already have on hand. So for this dish, we are going to start with 1 onion that we have finely diced. We also have 5 cloves of garlic that we've minced, along with a tablespoon of minced ginger. For our spices, we're going to be using curry powder. Now, curry powder is a blend of a lot of different seasonings. It is one of those seasoning blends that I prefer to just buy pre-made from the grocery store. You can make it yourself. I find that some of those seasonings that go into a curry powder are things that I don't normally keep on hand at home, so I find it more convenient to just buy the pre-made curry powder. You can find it in most grocery stores in the spice section. We're also going to add some cinnamon to that to round out the flavors, as well as some salt and pepper. In addition to those spices, we are going to add 1 head of cauliflower, and I've cut those pieces to be about 1 inch in size. We want to make sure that they don't take too long to cook and that they are all evenly sized. One trick I do have for buying cauliflower is to look to see if it's being sold by the pound or by the each. And by the each means you are paying the same price for any head of cauliflower no matter what size it is. Normally at the grocery store you are paying for cauliflower by the each, so I always recommend to buy the biggest head possible to get a little more bang for your buck. This recipe calls for a small head of cauliflower, so if you have any extra you can use it in a different dish, or you can easily freeze it and use it for later. And then finally, we have our canned ingredients. And these are things that I really recommend to try to keep on hand because they are very versatile. We can use them in a lot of different ways, so they're handy to have on hand, especially if you are stumped on what to make for dinner and you want something that comes together really quickly. Having a lot of canned things on hand means that you can make a really delicious stew or curry without much thought. So we are going to be using about half a can of crushed tomatoes, and then 1 can of coconut milk, and 1 can of chickpeas. Now for those chickpeas, I do drain the liquid off of them and rinse them off really well. That liquid in the chickpeas can be pretty salty, so you want to rinse away that liquid so that you're in control of how much salt is in your dish. And then once we're done, we can serve our curry over some rice and garnish it with some cilantro or some lime wedges. So while we're cooking our curry, I recommend having a pot of rice on the stove to go along with it. That being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Start by preheating a large pot over medium-high heat and adding 1 tablespoon of oil. Test to see if the oil is hot by adding a pinch of the onions. If it sizzles right away, that means your oil is hot enough and you can add the rest of the onions. Sauté your onions for about 3 to 5 minutes until they are soft. Once your onions are soft, translucent, and beginning to brown, you can add your ginger and your garlic. Garlic can burn pretty quickly, and that's why we add it once our onions are fully cooked. You only need to cook this for about 30 seconds to 1 minute or until fragrant. Once your kitchen is filled with the delicious smell of garlic and ginger, you can add your spices. You're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of curry powder, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and ground black pepper to taste. Give this a stir to make sure that your aromatics are evenly coated in the spices, and they only need to cook for about 30 seconds. Add your cauliflower and then stir to coat in the spices. Once your cauliflower is evenly coated in the spices, you can add your remaining ingredients. So you will add 1 15-ounce can of chickpeas that have been drained and rinsed, 1 can of coconut milk, and about 14 ounces of crushed tomatoes. If you buy a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, that means you're going to use about half of a can. This curry is supposed to be fairly thick, but if you would like, you can also add a little bit of water to this to thin it out. Keep your curry uncovered on high heat until it begins to boil. Once the curry is boiling, you can reduce the heat to low, cover it with a lid, and then simmer for 20 to 25 minutes, or until it has thickened and the cauliflower is completely cooked. You can test to see if your cauliflower is cooked by piercing it with a fork. If you're able to easily pierce the cauliflower with a fork, that means that it's done. If it still feels a little crunchy, you can continue to cook your curry for a few more minutes. Now you can serve the curry on its own, but traditionally we'll eat it with some rice. I did cook white rice for this. It is okay to have white rice occasionally. You just want to make sure that you're having an appropriate serving size. So here I'm only having about half a cup of rice. And we are serving this with a dish that's full of vegetables and legumes, so it's going to be very high in fiber and complex carbohydrates. So since we're missing the fiber from brown rice, we're making up for it in other ways. The serving size of our curry is 1.5 cups, and we can top that with some chopped cilantro and a lime wedge. Before you go to eat, squeeze the lime wedge over your curry and enjoy. Thank you for joining us for the SBH Teaching Kitchen's online cooking series. This has been our recipe for coconut cauliflower curry, and we'll see you again for the next one.